Welcome to GIL'S Top 3. This is the pilot for a new feature I want to bring to One Take. The basic idea is that throughout the week, I find myself consuming a ton of film and TV news, and then it kind of just sits in my brain. I don't talk about it or anything. And I've tried talking to my brothers about film news on podcasts and stuff like that, but the problem is they don't really follow film or TV news and don't really care about it as much as I do. So it ends up just being me kind of talking at them. So instead, I wanted to try something different. Every Friday, this is the idea, I'll pick out the top 3 stories that capture my imagination for one reason or another, and then just give some thoughts on them. Figure this will be a fun way to talk about the news, think about the news, and I'll rank them. People love stuff that's ranked, so it'll be in order from the story that for some reason I care about, captured my imagination in some way, but number 3 will be the one I care about least. Number 1 will be the one I care about the most. And we'll take it from there. So for this week, the number 3 story would be the fact that they announced a release date for Saw 10. Now, Saw is one of those franchises that I don't watch every movie in the franchise. At one point, I was into it. Back when the first Saw movie came out, I think I was in high school at the time. So it was one of those things you heard about, and people were saying it was like revolutionary in horror. You've never seen anything like this. So I was very intrigued by it, but it was like the forbidden fruit. Like I didn't know if I was going to get to see it or not. And then eventually I did, and it was a good movie. I remember being into Saw. As I recall, the first one didn't revel in the torture porn aspect of it as much as maybe some other movies have. From what I recall, it was less about seeing the bizarre ways people will die and more about that first intriguing question. You're stuck because you've got a handcuffs on and you have a bone saw that's not strong enough to cut through metal, but it's strong enough to cut through bone. So what choice are you going to make? I just remember being so intrigued by that choice. From my understanding is that as the franchise has gone on, there's still an element of that, but there's also what are the crazy ways we're going to see people die in this movie and get ripped apart. But the other thing about the Saw franchise that I think keeps people coming back over and over is the bizarre and continuously expanding canon. Just the crazy timeline of stuff that happens. For example, spoilers for the Saw franchise coming in a couple seconds here, but the main bad guy, Jigsaw, I believe he died a few movies in, and then they kept finding ways to keep it going. Like when they did the amputation, not the amputation. Daniel, what do you call it when you cut somebody open after they die to like see how they died and everything? Autopsy. When they did the autopsy, they found tapes inside of him, I think, that had messages, and that apparently he arranged for more traps and puzzles before his death. So they found a way to keep it going. And then I don't know how they keep it going after that. So this is a franchise that I started out intrigued by thanks to the actual premise. And then over time, it's turned into one of those, what I call in my head, Wikipedia franchises, where I won't watch the movies, but I will read about them on Wikipedia because I'm so curious just how are they going to keep the franchise going? And that's how I'm approaching Saw 10, which the release date, by the way, August 27th, 2023. So it's just one of those things where you've had the spinoff now with Spiral. You had Saw the final chapter back in 2010. Then you had a continuation with Jigsaw in 2017. I'm just very curious to see how they keep this thing going. And I might actually finally catch up on all the Saw movies I didn't see. I think I stopped with 4. And I just want to know how they've kept it going this long and see if there's more to it than just gratuitous deaths and weird twists. So we'll see. All right, my number 2 favorite story of the week. This one comes from Variety. Robert De Niro to star opposite himself in gangster drama Wiseguys at Warner Brothers. Now, on the surface, there's a couple reasons why this is good news. Hey, it's great to see Robert De Niro go back to the gangster genre. Did it a few years ago with The Irishman. I loved that movie. And I think Robert De Niro is a great actor who has done a lot of really bad movies the last 20 years, and for some reason seems to have gravitated toward almost self-parody comedies. So it's great to see him come back to this genre. So that's cool. It's also directed by Barry Levinson, who did Diner, Rain Man, Good Morning Vietnam, a lot of classic movies. So it seems like it might be in good hands. So that's all exciting. But the reason this story captured my imagination, as you might have heard me say a couple minutes ago, it will star Robert De Niro opposite himself. And I kind of glossed over it. The reason I glossed over it is because all these articles gloss over it, and I just find that really bizarre. If I look at this Variety article, it starts off, Robert De Niro will be sharing the screen with Hollywood legend Robert De Niro in the upcoming gangster drama Wiseguys. And then it says later, De Niro is expected to portray the two main characters. And before you say, oh, okay, he's probably playing twins or something. No, it's based on a true story about two different crime bosses named Vito Genovese and Frank Costello, one of whom tried to have the other assassinated. And I won't tell you how that played out in case you don't want spoilers for real life. But these are two different human beings, and Robert De Niro is playing both of them. It says De Niro is expected to portray the two main characters. What I find so bizarre is that nobody explains why, except for a couple funny sentences, starring opposite himself. But isn't that the most interesting part of this story? And I just find that strange. That captured my imagination. Just why is nobody pointing out how bizarre it is that he's going to be playing the two main characters? And is there a reason, or is this a marketing tactic of that's just crazy? Maybe they saw The Irishman, and although I think Scorsese did it for artistic reasons, I don't think he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that would do this as a publicity stunt. But there was a technology angle for that movie where that they're doing the de-aging. Maybe that got people's attention. And now maybe the producers here think, we need our angle for this movie. So De Niro's playing opposite himself. I'm assuming we'll learn more eventually, but for now, I find that bizarre, and I wanted to share that with you. Now, my number one favorite story of the week, the one that has me most excited, and this comes from Deadline. Vince Gilligan prepping a new series. Better Call Saul follow-up about to hit TV marketplace with a bang. So Vince Gilligan he's mentioned before that his next project is going to be very different from Breaking Bad, very different from Better Call Saul. And he said that even his wife doesn't know what it is. So it's been very secretive. That's all we knew about it. And now we know a tiny bit more. So they say that he's shopping it around to different networks. He's lined up 8 to 9, they say, for different platforms. And here's all we know about the new project. Comes from Sony Pictures TV, which is where Gilligan has been for Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. And this is what they say about it. It will harken back to Gilligan's tenure on The X-Files, but don't expect a sci-fi drama. When he was a writer-producer on The X-Files, Gilligan was known for focusing more on the human condition in his episodes, which is something he is said to also be doing in his new series, exploring similar themes of bending reality while holding a mirror to humanity. It's described as a blended, grounded genre drama, which it feels to me like no one really knows what this is about, and they're just throwing out a bunch of adjectives, some of which, to be honest, I don't really know what they mean. Blended, grounded genre drama. Blended maybe meaning that it's going to be grounded, but blending elements of sci-fi. The new series is also being compared to The Twilight Zone. It is said to be set in our world while putting a tweak on it, focusing on people and exploring the human condition in an unexpected, surprising way. So it all sounds very vague. If I had to put bets down, it sounds to me like whatever he's come up with maybe would also work as an episode of Black Mirror. They say it's reality with a slight twist. So maybe there's some new technology that changes the way we do things, and that reveals something about the human condition. If you want more adjectives that really tell you nothing, they also say thought-provoking, but not a morality tale. The The new show is expected to carry the signature Gilligan tone that infuses drama with humor. So, I don't have to know anything about this show to be excited about it. If you know this channel, then you know I'm a big fan of Better Call Saul, big fan of Breaking Bad. And the big silver lining to me of Better Call Saul coming to an end is now we're freeing these writers to work on something new. I love Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, and I would have it no other way. But you can't not think about the opportunity cost of having Vince Gilligan tied up in that world for over a decade. What other stories could he have told that we didn't get to hear? So I'm very excited to see him do something new. I also bias towards sci-fi. That's probably my favorite genre. So to hear that he's going to go back to that a little bit, but as the article says, it's going to harken back to X-Files, but don't expect a sci-fi drama. This article is just full of contradictions. We have no idea what to expect. But yeah, the vibe I'm getting is we're talking about something like Black Mirror. It's our world, maybe with a slight sci-fi twist. But who knows? Maybe we'll be surprised and it goes a lot further than we're expecting. In any case, excited for something new from Vince Gilligan. Excited that it's not going to be anything close, it sounds like, to what Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul were. I don't want to see him do, another dark drama where somebody's going down a bad choice road and slowly rusting away into an evil husk of what they used to be. He did it great twice. Now let's get something new. So I'm excited for that. Honorable mention, and this is an honorable mention because it just came out a couple of hours ago, maybe even less than that, but The Rehearsal just renewed officially for a season 2. You may have also heard me mention that show a few times, but that's kind of the one other thing I'm watching these days. I mean, now it's the only thing I'm watching because Better Call Saul wrapped up. But while watching the final season of Saul, the one other thing I was following was The Rehearsal. And I don't usually watch a lot of comedy, but Nathan Fielder does it in such a unique way that it wins me over. I love Nathan For You. The Rehearsal, if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. And I would say go in knowing as little as possible because there are a few twists and turns in the first episode where you just can't believe how far he's going with the premise. And the more surprising it is to you, I think the funnier it is. But either way, it's a hilarious show and surprisingly thought-provoking. I won't say too much more about it because I think we're going to do a full episode on the One Take podcast. Daniel, you're going to be on that episode, right?
Yes, I better be.
I booked you. So The Rehearsal, the first season ends tonight. So next week we'll do an episode and just talk about our thoughts on that season overall. Very glad it's getting renewed for a second season. Every episode of this show, I wonder, how is he going to keep it going? How is he going to up the ante? And every time he found a way. So at the end of this season, I find myself asking the same question, and I can't wait to see the answer. So with that, we've reached the end of the first ever episode of GIL'S Top 3. I hope you enjoyed that. I wanted to do some more casual stuff. I read the movie news and TV news. I sound like an old person. I read the movie news. I read movie and TV news all the time. I have nobody to talk about it with, but I'm going to talk about I'm going to talk about it to all of you people, hopefully. So let me know what you thought of this. If you'd want to see more, let me know what you thought of these particular stories. Are you excited for Saw 10? Should I do a every Saw movie recapped video? Does that have the potential to maybe beat the Spider-Man recap video? Let me know. Any news stories I missed this week? Things that you cared about? Anybody watching She-Hulk? I think that came out yesterday or today maybe. Is it good? Let me know. And with that, see you on the next one.